All right, welcome everyone. We have Chance Shaw here for an arm wrestling forums.com here for an armwrestlingforums.com AMA. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it stands for Ask Me Anything. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You get to ask Chance whatever question you want, arm wrestling related or not, and we come on and answer them. So I'm going to share a screen here so you can see what it looks like. All right. So here's the thread on armwrestlingforums.com. It's titled Chance Shaw AMA, and then all our members came and asked Chance a whole bunch of questions. Some are friends, some are foes, but we're going to grind through them here, get Chance's thoughts, and it should be a lot of fun. All right, you ready to go, Chance?
I am ready. Thanks for having me on,
All right, man, let's get right into it. So question number one, we're going to start with member Tiger Sai asks, what do you think about to get yourself psyched up for a match?
So I don't necessarily think of anything specific. I kind of just flip a switch in my brain.
Okay.
As soon as my elbow hits the pad, I focus up, I get ready, and I'm just remembering all the training, all the hard work I've done, everything that I've put myself through to get to the point that I am. And you know, I know I have to perform my best. So like I said, I flip the switch and I'm focused up and I'm good to go. I've heard some people say they like think of their kids getting pushed over or like their wife getting pushed or
Matt
or stuff
has
like
said that.
I don't think of anything crazy like that. But I'm also not the most fired up arm wrestler. I find if I get too much adrenaline, I forget about certain things and I make mistakes. So I try to stay extremely focused, but not too over the top.
Okay, so you're trying to strike a balance there.
Yeah, exactly.
And before them, if I can kind of add an addendum to that, are you thinking about the match 24/7 leading up to it, or do you kind of just go through life and then when it's game day, it's game day?
I try my best not to.
Okay.
I try my best not to think about it at all, but like it's hard not to, right? Like the night before, you're laying in bed trying to sleep, and you're just thinking like, all right, well, if he top rolls, if he hooks, like, what am I gonna do? Like, okay, if the match stops here, like, where's my elbow gonna drive? Like, I'm envisioning every single possible outcome.
How can you not? But it doesn't help you fall asleep, I'm sure.
It doesn't. So if I can help it, I don't think of it at all. Like most of my matches, I have a few months to prep for.
Yeah.
So if I prep for it for 2.5 months, I've already thought everything through. I've already studied. I've already trained.
Right.
The last week or two, I'm trying not to think about it too much. Just coast along.
Yeah, no, I think that's smart. Awesome. So next, Tiger Sai had a few questions here. So the next one is, if you could have any superpower, what would you choose?
It depends on the cap of like power level of this superpower.
Okay.
Because like you could say something like telekinesis, right?
Right.
But that can be dragged out to like, how powerful is it, right? Like, is my telekinesis strong enough to use for time control and all sorts of different things? Like, I don't know. So if we're just talking normal superpowers, let's say probably teleportation.
Teleportation. That would make getting to tournaments a lot easier.
Low travel cost, right?
Yeah.
Teleport, do the arm wrestling, go back home.
That's brilliant, man. All right, good answer. All right, next, do you have any other hobbies that complement arm wrestling? And I should say we have a lot of questions here, so I'm going to try to blast through them pretty quick. So next one was, do you have any other hobbies that complement arm wrestling?
Nothing that complements arm wrestling, no.
Okay.
Any other thing that I'm into has really nothing to do with arm wrestling or strength at all. Like I love gaming.
Yeah.
I love hi-fi, like hi-fi audio,
nice.
high-end speakers and things like that. I love music. None of that plays into arm wrestling in any way that I can think of, at least. So maybe
I thought you said high fives. I was like, what a strange.
Yeah, I'm like,
well, yeah, he just loves them, man, all day, every day, as many hands as he can high five.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, what games? I think you said League of Legends, right? Classic.
Yeah, play some League of Legends. I've been playing a ton of RuneScape lately. I've been playing
the old school or
the old school RuneScape.
Yeah.
Not RuneScape. So I've been playing RuneScape since I was like 4.
Yeah.
So I mean, if anyone's ever played, they know like you play and then you stop playing and you play.
Right.
So I'm on one of those binges right now, but mostly League, RuneScape, Minecraft, sometimes Call of Duty.
Nice.
Just whatever my friends are playing mostly.
Yeah. Fair enough, man. Good social activity, especially in the past couple of years.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next, again, Tiger Sai. Last question is, how did you first get into the sport?
Okay, so I first got into the sport by going to a fitness expo, Europa in
Okay.
Orlando. I went with my dad because he competes in powerlifting and bench
Right.
press specifically. So we went to Europa because he was going to compete in bench press, but the tournament ended up being bench press deadlift.
Okay.
So right next to, and he doesn't deadlift at all. So he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Right next to it was arm wrestling. So we entered the arm wrestling tournament and he ended up winning the novice class undefeated. And I just thought it was super cool. So we ended up talking with the local guys. I think
Okay.
at the time it was Brandon Morris that we talked to the most. Brandon Morris and Craig Sublair. We had a couple practices with them. The next, I guess, a few months later, there was a tournament in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
And I thought my dad was entering it and I was just going to watch. And we go up there and he's like, all right, son, I signed you up. You're arm wrestling now. I'm like,
Oh, throws you
okay,
right into the deep end. Okay.
okay, well, I guess I'm competing
Had you
today. And
trained at all at this point? Like ever been? Well, you said you went to a few practices, right?
I went to one practice
Okay.
before the tournament. It was at Orlando Barbell Gym with Brandon and Artem and all those guys. So
Gotcha.
I ended up taking second place to this like giant ex NFL player. Who's like six. I don't want to over exaggerate. He was at least 6'5", like 350. He might have been bigger,
Okay.
but I don't want to over. Just a giant man, and
Right.
I'm 16
Large
years
person.
old, right?
Fair.
But I ended up beating, some big grown men, and I was pretty happy, and so I was hooked. I mean,
You
I
were
was
young at the
immediately
time,
hooked.
right? Weren't you in your early teens or
16.
something?
Yeah, I was 16.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Very impressive. And had your dad, before he did that Europa tournament, had he ever been on an arm wrestling table before? Or was this like,
So
oh, that's a sport? Kind of like a lot of people discover it.
one time in the late 80s or early 90s or something like that, there was an
Yep.
arm wrestling tournament at
Okay.
a bar that he, I guess, was at the time. So he entered that and he ended up taking second place to some guy who said he's a world champion, right? You never know
You
with those
never
guys.
know,
Like
man.
guys
Yeah.
always say the world. So, anyways, one time he competed way back. But besides that, he hadn't. So in that, I don't know, 20, 30-year span, he hadn't.
Okay, fair enough. Sweet. All right. Next up, we have some questions from user Mark Paulson, who asks, how are you going to adjust your training for Todd Hutchings?
Yeah, so I kind of already just adjusted my training when I got here to Sweden.
Yep.
My strength training program has completely changed from basically just doing whatever I think I should do in the gym to now having a structured program,
Okay.
custom done for me by Brandon Allen. So
Oh, interesting.
I've been running that now for, I guess, almost 2 months.
Seeing
1.5
results,
months.
how's that going?
Yeah, it's going amazing. I love it.
Really?
But I don't think I necessarily need to change anything specifically in my training going from my last previous match with Sandra to Todd Hutchings.
Okay.
Of course, they have different styles, but you're not going to make significant, in my opinion, you're not going to make significant gains in a month and a half.
Yeah.
Right. It's just going to be very minuscule. So like technique wise, everyone knows like you don't hook Todd Hutchings unless maybe you're Dave Chafee or something
Yeah,
like that.
short list.
So it's not like, okay, I need to train my hook. Well, I'm just going to do my traditional low hand top roll. If he tries to match it at all, I'll switch to a posting top roll.
Right.
But I don't need to develop anything new for Todd Hutchings. I just need to see if I'm strong enough to apply my strength and go from there. So I'm not necessarily changing anything.
Okay.
Like I said, I already changed the strength program. It's working amazing. So I'm just going to keep on it with that.
Okay. But it's fair to say we are going to see a new and improved chance against Todd with this new Brandon Allen training program.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you can only get so strong in a short period of time.
Context.
But going from really not having any sort of structured program to having structured program, by the time I arm wrestle Todd, it'll be for like 3 months.
Okay.
3 months should be enough time to see a significant amount of change.
Right.
I know in gym numbers, my numbers have gone up on all lifts.
Right.
So hopefully it transfers. I think it will. I think the higher level of arm wrestler you are, not saying that I'm a super high level, but once you've been in the sport a while and you kind of have your technique down, I think any strength you put on applies a lot better to the table than a newer arm wrestler. Like if you take a guy that's a year in the sport and a guy that's 10 years in the sport, and they each get 50% stronger and gym lifts,
Yeah.
there's going to be a big difference in who sees more results.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when I look back when I first got into the sport, how I trained at the gym compared to now, a few years in, you don't know really what you're looking for, those feelings when you're lifting, when you're early and new to the sport. There's so much nuance. Even if you're both training, a pronation exercise, doing the same exercise, once you're experienced, you really know what to look for, and even just millimeter and adjustments and how much wrist flexion you're using or your starting position really make a difference. So yeah, that's super
absolutely.
interesting. You've gripped up with Todd, I think once or twice when he came to Florida for a seminar. Is that right?
Yeah, once. It was October, I want to say, of 19 or 20. I
Okay.
don't remember exactly, but it's been a couple. It's been at least a year and a half, I think.
All right, so that'll be interesting. And April 2nd, right?
Yeah, April 2nd is my match with Todd. When I
Perfect.
gripped up with Todd, he was not in a peak form.
Yeah.
Now he's in a peak form. I was also like 240. Now I'm
Right.
300. So I think he's going to be showing in his peak form, and I'm going to be showing in a much better form. So I'm not
Okay.
really sure if I can gather any data from that. It
Right.
was so long ago, and I think again he wasn't peaked and I was much smaller.
And just to help promote the event, where can people watch this?
Yeah, so it's going to be the Michigan State Arm Wrestling Championship. I should have the link in my head, but I don't.
That's Arm Sport Hub, I think.
Yeah, Arm Sport Hub. Thank you.
Okay.
Arm Sport Hub. You can go in there, buy the pay-per-view. Steve Pettis has a production company running the pay-per-view. It's not going to be off someone's phone. It's not going to be some crap quality thing. It's going to be well done, and I think it's like $5.
Okay.
So if you want to watch the match, you're going to watch it over there. And there's 4 or 5 matches before that. I don't know all of them off the top of my head.
Okay.
I know Kyle DePew has a match with Alex Willett. I know that's one of them. Darren Bills was supposed to be pulling Craig. I guess something happened with that, so that match is off. But they're looking for a replacement to that, so hopefully they'll have one for that. But you're getting to see 5 or 6 arm wrestling matches. Me and Todd, $5. I think it's well worth it.
Yeah. Yep. Large cup of coffee. Awesome. Next question from Mark Paulson. Favorite superhero and why?
My favorite superhero has always been Incredible Hulk.
Fitting.
It's always been Incredible Hulk. I just love the big, strong, massive superhero. Like, what's not to like about that as someone who likes strength?
Exactly. Yeah, you couldn't pick a better one. So no surprises there.
That being said, I'm a big Marvel guy too. So I have been enjoying Doctor Strange as a superhero, and the Shang-Chi movie made me a Shang-Chi fan. So I would say those are my top 3. But all time,
Mark, right? 3 for the price of 1.
Yeah,
not bad.
All time, Incredible Hulk.
Yep, fair enough. Master Shake asks, which arm wrestling loss do you most want to avenge?
I'm not typically one that wants to avenge losses. I take a loss, I learn from it, and I try to improve on my weakness from that loss and move to the next opponent. If I had to pick one person to get a rematch with that I would want the win on, of course it would be John Brzenk, right? Who wouldn't take the rematch with John Brzenk?
Sure.
And who wouldn't want a win on it? And I think it's even if I don't get the win, if I have another match with him, I think that's an honor to have. So, but if I could pick one person to get revenge on, I guess it would be him. But I have no spite or anything towards any of my losses.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair answer. Next up, Ali Selik says, how does it feel to be the only guy in the world who still wears Hawaiian t-shirts? Ironically, not wearing one at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Come on. This is your brand here, Chance.
Today is laundry day, so they're all in the washer and dryer. So I'm just wearing a t-shirt right now. Yeah. But I don't know. In Florida, people rock them all the time. I'm definitely not the only one walking around in a Hawaiian.
Right.
In Sweden, I am the only dude wearing a Hawaiian shirt. It is everyone's giving me weird looks.
Yeah.
I turn my head and everyone's staring at me. I swear, I'm not even exaggerating. But no, in Florida, everyone's rocking them, and so I don't know.
Yeah,
wherever he's from, they just might not have them.
Yeah, I mean they're big, they're comfy, allows you to move around. So seems like a fair pick for arm wrestling.
The thing about the Hawaiian shirt is you can wear them almost to any event. Super casual, you want to go hang out at the beach or the pool, you could do it. You want to go out to dinner, you could do it. You want to go to a kind of nice event, you can dress it up with some nice khakis and some dress shoes. Like, it's a very versatile shirt, so they are very underrated.
Right. So it's a strategic choice, people. Very,
Yes.
very good. Next, he asks, do you think people overrate yourself and really North American pullers in general because North America doesn't have the same young, dedicated talent that Europe has? Very interesting question. Hot
So is the
topic.
question, do I think that people underrate North American pullers, including myself in general?
Overrate.
Overrate.
So because the pool of young talent in North America isn't as large as it is in Europe, do you think there's a skewed perception of how good North American young talent is?
I will agree that our talent pool in North America when it comes to younger athletes is very, very limited.
Yeah.
Guys my age or younger, I can really only name maybe less than 10 of us that are really pushing in their respective classes, pushing towards the
Right.
top guys. So I don't necessarily think we're overrated though by any means. If you talk to any Europeans, they really don't think North American arm wrestling is serious at all, outside of maybe like Dave Chafee has respect, John Berzing, Todd Hutchings, only a few guys.
Okay.
Most guys are kind of viewed as a joke, in my opinion.
Okay.
Like, most guys, at least when I was at East versus West, didn't even know who I was. So how could I be overrated if I'm
Fair.
not even a known factor? I think it's easy if you're a North American to overrate your fellow North American pullers because
Right.
you see them doing well. So in one sense, I'll say yes. You know, I am overrated, and North American pullers are overrated. But in another sense, they're not even rated at all by Eastern Europeans. So it just depends how you look at it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair and interesting take. You know, how you rate is subjective. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like this. If you're on a team that doesn't really travel much, you know, let's say there's 20 of you, that
yeah.
top guy, everyone's going to think is invincible. They're going to be saying, oh, you need to pull Dave Chafee, you need to pull this guy, that guy, you're the best.
Yep.
And then they travel and they don't even place top 3 at a tournament.
Right.
This happens all the time. It's kind of like that in North American arm wrestling. Like, if you only look at North Americans, it's easy to overrate them.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Next he asked, do you think you pull up in rank too much? And if I can add to that, how do you determine who you want for your next opponent? I mean, obviously you're looking up the list, you want to climb the ranks, but when do you look down the list? How does that come about? Is it just money? Is it Paul Italia hits you up and says, hey, let's do X, Y, or Z? What's the story there? But first he says, do you think you pull up rank in too much? Are you putting yourself in too crazy of situations between Sandra and Hutchings and John Brzenk? I mean, you're really going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year I had a really big year. I think it's hard to argue that I didn't. I pulled a lot of tournaments. I got a lot of big wins. I pulled a 4-away. I had some good wins there. So after I kind of figured out where I was, I just wanted to push the limits,
Yep.
test the water, see where I'm at. So the John Brzenk match was like no prep time. I think he said something on Facebook like, Chance, you want to have a super match in Virginia next month? Like,
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not going to say no.
Of
So
course, yeah.
that match was thrown at me. So I don't know if I would count that.
Okay.
But, and then originally I wasn't supposed to pull Sandris in East versus West. I was supposed to pull FA, and Sandris ended up injuring FA. So as a replacement match, Sandris kind of just fit. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say no to that either. When Engen offers you a match, you take a match.
Right.
But Todd Hutchings I did pick because I think he's a really interesting style for me because I mean, it's kind of assumed by the general majority of people, I would say, that I'm gonna attack his hand, I'm probably gonna maybe crack it, and then he's gonna drive sideways. So it'll tell me how far is my arm off of hanging with someone like that. So to me, it's an interesting match. As far as pulling up too much, I don't think necessarily I pull up too much. I kind of take the matches that are offered to me.
Sure.
So being a full-time arm wrestler, if with some exceptions, if a match is offered to me that has a good payday, I'm going to accept it.
Right.
For example, I'm pulling Brendan Lemon Mulvihill in Canada, June 4th. Brendan is ranked somewhere around 10th, I want to say, at 242. So obviously, I have no rank or anything like that to gain from pulling him. Not saying he's not a great talent, because he is.
Right.
He's a great up and coming talent.
Very fast.
I would put him in the same boat as myself as we're climbing the ladder, but I'm just saying it's not a rank game.
Right.
I'm pulling him because it was a really good offer. I'm also pulling Caleb Freeborn on the left.
Okay.
Neither of us are ranked left, so it doesn't really mean a whole lot
Fair.
there. But it's, again, he's someone who's progressing in Canada locally, so why not have a good match?
Right on.
So I guess the answer to the question is, I'll pull anyone if the money is right and if the situation is right. Let's do it. But if I get to choose, if I get to hand pick,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I hand pick the match that I think I have the most to gain?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And final question from Ali Selleck, a little bit of connect the dots here, so try to follow along. So you and Ryan had a match, and then Lachlan and you lost to Ryan in Florida, and then Lachlan beat Ryan, and then Todd beat Lachlan. So kind of through the transitive property there, are you concerned that you're outmatched here against Todd? Or do you think it's not even relevant data, the Ryan match, because it was so long ago?
I think arm wrestling math is really funny, because that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is I lost to Ryan, and then Ryan lost to Lachlan, but Lachlan lost to Aiello, and I beat Aiello. So
right.
Just number one, styles make matches. Number two, the timeline matters. What happened first? My match with Ryan was over 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a little over 2 years ago now. I was 250-ish, I want to say.
Okay.
And I wasn't taking arm wrestling seriously. He beat me. He was the better guy that day. I don't want to take anything away from that, but I've progressed a lot. I'm not saying he hasn't, but everyone progresses at different rates, as I think we know. And using arm wrestling math, anyone can really beat anyone for the most part. A more recent or relevant thing is I beat Mike Aiello and Jordan Sill.
Yep.
And both of those guys have, in the last couple of years, beat Todd Hutchings.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It just depends on how you look at it. If you want to look at it as I'm going to lose, then you can find a way to make the math make it look like I'm going to lose. If you want me to win, you can make that happen too.
Yeah, but great answer.
Generally, I don't think that data matters a whole lot unless it's pretty recent.
Yeah.
If all this happened in the last 6 months, then I would think that it's a very silly match.
Right. Especially at your age. I mean, the graph of your progress, I'm sure, is pretty steep. What, you're 24 right now? Is that right?
23.
23. Oh, yikes. Okay. Yeah. So going to be super interesting, man. You have a chance to really quiet a lot of people with this Hutchings match, even if you just do well. So you're in a great spot.
I mean, I'm in a great spot regardless. I think I get to pull a legend, and I have plenty of time in the world to catch up.
Man, you have such a healthy take on these things, man. You're talking after the Brzezinski match, this, Sandra's. I think your mindset is awesome and is going to serve you very well.
Thank you, Ryan.
Sweet. Okay, let's get on to the next one here. Aaron Arm Wrestling asks, if you beat Hutchings, what next? And what about if you lose? You kind of already talked about some things that are on the books, but in terms of what you are aspiring for, or things that aren't on the books, what do you think happens win versus lose? Or does it change at all? Or are you just going to keep chugging along? No pun intended.
I don't necessarily think it changes a whole lot.
Yeah.
Win or lose. I have my match in June with Brendan and Caleb, right and left. And then Ingen also, this is before that, Ingen has offered me a match at East versus West, the next one in May. So those two things, as long as everything works out with Ingen, because he hasn't picked an opponent for me yet, but those two things are going to happen regardless, win or lose.
Okay.
After, let's say after that, does anything change? Well, I'm sure everyone knows I've been trying to get a match with Jerry Cataret for the last year.
Yeah, unless you've been.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a year. So Jerry has always said, well, you need to do this. And then I do that. And he's like, okay, well, you need to do this. And then I do that. And you need to do that. And most recently, the thing he said I need to do is beat Todd Hutchings.
Okay.
So if he holds true to his word this time, and he doesn't add some new thing that I need to do, if I beat Todd Hutchings, hopefully I'll be pulling Jerry Cataret at some point. That should be my next match. If I lose to him, then Jerry will say, oh, you didn't beat that guy, so you can't pull me.
Yeah. Which
I think is silly, but whatever. So who knows what I'll do? I don't really have any offers past June.
Yeah.
So, it just depends. If a promoter wants to offer me a match, I'll take it.
Yep.
If I probably won't get as many offers if I lose. So then, in my mind, to build my brand back up and build my reputation back up,
Mhm.
I start showing up to big tournaments, and I try to win them. And I win a couple tournaments, I get a couple good wins, and
Yep.
then the ball's rolling again, and I start getting some more big matches.
Sweet. All right. You heard
So
it here. He also asks, you've been looking big. What's your diet like? And I'm sure it's probably changed ever since you moved to Sweden. I can't imagine the
oh
cuisine
yeah.
is exactly like it is in Florida there.
So in Florida, it was like, I'm not even exaggerating. I would Uber Eats Taco Bell once or twice a day.
Crunchwrap Supremes.
Everything.
Okay.
I would order, I'm not even exaggerating, at least 10 items on the menu. At least 10, and I would just sit there and eat them. And I was
So you were
so
like on a
bloated.
first name basis with the people at the local
Oh,
taco.
I love Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. I
Yeah,
still love it, but they don't have it in Sweden. So it's great that I'm here.
sure.
Since I've been here, it's mostly meat, rice, and vegetables. I'll say
Right.
that's like 80% of my diet.
Okay.
Like before we hopped on, I had some rice and some chicken Maggie made and some Brussels sprouts. Breakfast is usually either fried eggs or an egg sandwich with some oatmeal.
Okay.
So it's not extremely healthy, but it's not really too bad either.
Sure.
And then the other 20%, sometimes we'll run through if we're out and about and we don't have a meal prep made, we'll run through and get some kebab, which is essentially just meat and rice.
Right.
Every once in a while, I'll have a pizza. I probably had McDonald's 3 times this trip.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of variance, but I would say it's like 80% relatively clean. I'm just making sure that I'm getting my protein in and I'm eating it like an athlete for the most part, at least.
Yeah. Oh man, we could do a whole podcast on just the diet issue, but just a couple questions if I can add to that. One, I remember walking past a McDonald's. I can't remember if it was in Italy or Germany, and like the whole menu was different. They had weird stuff that you would never find in the US. Was that the case in Sweden, or is it like the exact same McDoubles and all that?
They have a cheeseburger, McDouble, and then a triple cheeseburger.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, they don't have McDouble. They have a double cheeseburger.
Okay, fair enough.
They have the McChicken and the nuggets.
Yep.
And then they have some weird burgers like a McFeast, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
They sell what are they called? Chili cheese, which is like jalapenos and cheese and wrapped in bread and fried. And they sell chicken. They sell chicken wings, which I think is a little
chicken
odd.
Wings at McDonald's.
Yeah, like
that's
on the bone
wild,
chicken.
Man.
Yeah. So there are some weird things.
Yeah.
But I usually just get like a couple double cheeseburgers.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. All right, let's move on here. We got a few more to get to. Ron Star asks, if you could go back in time and arm wrestle one person, who would it be? You can have that as open-ended as you want, as far back in time as you want. Arm wrestle.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of right answers. I don't think that there's a wrong answer here. Like,
sure. Cleave's got to be on the list, right?
I have to know my power level, right? Like I could say, well, I want to arm wrestle Prime Saplinkov, but like that's not going to feel like anything to me. It's just going to feel like a wall. And so I think it would be really interesting to feel someone like Johnny Walker, to see like what level of athlete was he at.
Yeah.
Or like Gary Goodridge. I know a lot of people have him as like a top athlete or a top arm wrestler ever. It'd be interesting to feel what that feels like. Maybe like a prime Ingen. That might be a little too high for me.
How far off do you think Ingen
like
is from his prime right now? He looks big and strong, man.
I don't know. Yeah. He looks really big. I think maybe power wise, he might already be there. Like he might already be at his prime power wise, but he has some injuries that he's getting over all the time. When you're older and you've been arm wrestling for forever, it's hard for your body to keep up.
Right.
So I don't know how far he is from his prime. Power wise, he might already be there since he's always pulling like 154, 165, and now he's 200 pounds.
So I'm sure his speed took a hit. I know his back's bugging him. So
yeah.
Very interesting.
And then last guy I'd like to add is I'd like to pull Cleve Dean.
That
would be really interesting.
Again, there's so many arguments
too
I've
high,
seen.
But
what was that?
I was saying probably too high.
Yeah.
But it still be just his hand. I want to feel, because he's supposed to have a giant hand.
Right. That's I've seen so many arguments about, is arm wrestling harder now than it was back then? And you can never answer it. There's no ending that argument. So
never.
Someone get Chance a time machine so we can go put an end to this thing.
I'll do it.
Yeah. All right, next up, BioFact. He says, adapted a little bit here. Do you feel you are genetically gifted, or does your hard work make up for genetic lacking, I guess, for put it one way?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of people, when they think about like genetically gifted, they think like big hand, a
Yeah,
long arm, or like something like that. I think it goes a little deeper than that, to things that you can't necessarily see, like how strong are your tendons? How are your muscle insertions? How
right.
dense are your bones? Like things that you can't really see by looking at someone. So I have not put in really much hard work up until the last year and a half.
Okay.
And I was already getting really good wins. I was winning open tournaments,
Hmm.
based off of really just like table time every now and again and studying arm wrestling.
Okay.
Low effort gym training, like not doing a whole lot. So
Right.
I think that genetics had a big part to play on my behalf.
Okay.
But I also think the way that I approach arm wrestling, like studying a lot and analyzing, I think that helped a lot as well. Because too many times I see new guys, they get caught up in like, okay, I need to buy this handle and do this many reps, and like then
Yep.
I'm a good arm wrestler, and they forget to study the game. So I definitely don't think my hard work has outworked me, because I know a lot of people work a lot harder than I do.
Right.
Um, I don't think I'm the most genetically gifted, but I would say that my genetics play a big factor.
Okay. Fair enough. There you go, BioFact. Next up, we have a question from the Death Grip. After your loss against Sandris and Todd's dominant win against Sonev, do you still think the match with him makes sense? We kind of already touched on that. And or do you believe that you can counter his hook like you did against Mike Aiello? So maybe focus on that second part a little bit. Do you
Yeah,
think
so
you're gonna be? You said you think you can crack his wrist. Is that right?
I mean, I think I should be able to.
Yeah.
When you look at the people who have cracked his wrist, like Jordan Sill, for example,
Yep.
I think that I should be able to.
Yeah.
When you look, let's say Zoliev. Now,
Yeah.
I've never pulled Zoliev, but John just pulled Zoliev and I've pulled John. So I talked to John a little bit about it just to get his opinion. So when you look at people like that that are cracking his wrist, I think it's very possible that I'm going to crack his wrist. It's just a matter of can I keep his wedge
Yeah.
from getting applied inside of his shoulder line? Because if I, well, number one, if I can keep him from getting a wedge in, I'm good.
Right.
But if I can keep the wedge outside of his shoulder line, I think I'm also good.
Yeah. It's hard to surge when you're out of position like that.
Exactly. So who knows? Do I think the match still makes sense? Maybe not to a lot of people, but to me, it does.
Yeah.
Todd accepted the match, so he thinks that I'm worthy of a match. I mean, a big reason, of course, is a payday for him, but
Right.
he at least thinks I'm somewhat worthy for a match. I think that I've earned at least a chance at the match,
Yep.
and the promoter thinks I have. So really, that's all that matters.
Yeah. If you get the chance, maybe not during the match, but in an after pull, hook him. Because we
Yeah,
saw what happened with Sandris when you went inside. I think everyone was like, what chance has an inside game? So I would
yeah.
just be curious, just for fun,
I
if
try
you
to
get the opportunity.
try to keep that on the down low. I don't want people knowing I have a hook too, but
Oh, well, if they watch East
but
versus West too.
I kind of exposed it in East
Yeah,
versus West,
yeah,
right? But
yeah, just for the
I've
world
been
to see.
working on that a bit, because that's always been the biggest hole.
Yeah,
But yes, I will absolutely hook him afterwards.
yep,
Yeah, not during, because even
yep.
if I'm up 2-0 dominantly, if I hook him and then I gas myself and then he beats me the
How
next,
stupid. Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna feel like an idiot.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Tim Roll asks, how did Sandras feel compared to what you expected?
Mm. Way less arm than I expected.
Okay.
Way more hand.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel threatened inside
Yep.
really at all. I'm not saying that he wasn't strong inside. He was still strong, but I definitely had the edge, I felt. But his hand was dominant to mine. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what won him the match. His cup was very strong. He had a big hand.
Yep.
And he was able to keep me from accessing my pronator completely.
Yep.
So yeah, with Sandris, more hand, more cup, more pronator than I was expecting. He was just as versatile as I expected, because he can go anywhere. He's a very impressive athlete.
Right.
But his inside game wasn't as much as I thought it would be, based off of, he's beat some serious dudes in
Yeah.
on the inside.
All right. There you go. Tim Roll also asked, anything you wish you could do different with Sandra's?
Yeah, looking back and studying my loss against Sandras, I wish I would have tried to hook him
Okay.
earlier. So round one, well, of course, number one, I wish I would have kept my elbow down. Because if I kept my elbow down, I would have been up 1-0.
Yep.
Round two, I shouldn't have tried to go for my move a second time. I thought, okay, now I don't have the buckle. So let me just try to go to my typical move without the buckle. Maybe that'll change it. I shouldn't have done that. I knew that I was stronger in a hook. So what I would have done round two before the straps applied, because he typically shoots in when he doesn't have the strap. So I should have just shot in with him and grinded in a hook and see how that went. That's the biggest thing I would have changed. And then from there, I don't know what I would have had to do in round three, because if I'm up 2-0 now, of course I'm just going to try to hook again, but maybe my arm's too gassed. Who knows? But definitely should have tried to hook without the strap.
You mentioned the buckle in there. So you're in the camp that buckle matters, huh?
100%.
Yeah.
100% it matters.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's like win or lose, because it's definitely not. But if it's already super, super close and everything else is even, let's say webbing was even, let's say thumb spacing was even, to when you had the buckle versus when you didn't, I think you're always at a slight disadvantage
because of the way it's wrapped, or just the uncomfortability of having it on the back of your hand.
Not necessarily uncomfortability, more the way that it's wrapped. And when the referee is pulling it down, it's very easy for your opponent to get a slight advantage in the webbing.
Right.
Even with a really good referee, you're always going to have that pressure that was pulling your hand down.
That's right.
And pulling your opponent's hand up. I mean, it's inevitable. So
and if your opponent's aware of that, they're going to try to capitalize. So
and at the level of guys that I'm pulling, I think everyone's pretty aware of that.
Yeah, exactly right. All right. Next up, user YardDog. More of a statement that he wants your thoughts on. So he says, Toddzilla lost convincingly to Zoloev a few months ago, but then convincingly defeated Corey West, Lachlan Adair, and Sonev like a boss. Brzezinski loses convincingly to Devin not too long after getting the win against you, but then crushes Zoloev in a way that Toddzilla couldn't when they pulled. So if you're with me there, Todd lost to Zoloev, but Brzezinski beat Zoloev a lot, convincingly. So do you look at any crossover there? Does that give you confidence that you did better against John, who then went on to beat Zoloev? Or
a couple things. I think that when Todd faced Zoloev, he was a little bit too stubborn in his mindset of what he wanted to do. And I think it cost him the win. I think had he been willing to do some things differently,
like slip, you mean?
Yeah, for example, like slip, commit, I don't know, flop his hand out, try to top roll, just do something, get to the strap, and then force a wedge. I think that he could have won. He showed that he was a stronger guy that day, but he was getting out arm wrestled.
Okay.
So number two, I think since Todd took that loss, it really bugged him. And he has been just getting as strong as possible since then. I mean, you can only get so much stronger when you're in your 50s, but with some assistance, maybe you can get super strong. I don't know exactly what his training regimen and supplements look like, but it seems like he's on an upward trend.
Yeah, he said he's way stronger than he was in his 40s. So
well, there you go.
For it.
I don't believe that Zoloev is gonna. Zoloev didn't beat the same version of Todd Hutchings that just beat Sonev.
Okay.
And I think Todd is going to improve a little bit by the time I pulled him.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, Zoloev had a slight injury when he competed at WAF. I think in his elbow or his pronator.
Yep.
And then he pulled John, a month after.
Okay.
So I think John got maybe an equal to or lesser than Zoloev. And I think that Todd Hutchings is way above when he pulled Zoloev.
Right.
So it's hard to make, again, arm wrestling math is confusing like that.
Yeah, and there's so much context, like the injuries and everything.
Exactly. So when you dig a little deeper, it doesn't necessarily give me confidence, but it doesn't hurt to know that I was able to hang with a guy that I was able to hang with John, and John crushed the guy that beat Hutchings. Of course it feels good, but I think there's more to the picture.
Okay. Fair enough. There you go. YardDog. All right. We got about 7 more. We'll get through these real quick. Okay. Stefano Putergi asks, in your East versus West match, how close were you to winning? That is to say, How much stronger would you have had to be, and in which area for you to have been able to take the match?
Had my pronator and or riser been a couple percent stronger, I think I would have won the hand game, and I think
Yep.
I would have won pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
Or had I been smarter and, like we touched on earlier, hooked without the strap in round 2, or
Yep.
been able to keep my elbow down in round 1, I think it could have turned the tide.
Okay.
I would say 5%, 5% in my riser, 5% in my pronator ish. And then, of course, endurance would have helped as well.
Right.
But I don't
There
think
you
it was
go.
far off.
And he says, he also asks, have you been able, with hindsight, to pinpoint any specific areas of weakness that led to the loss? You said your hand, right? And
Yeah. Specifically
discipline.
riser
Yep.
and pronator.
Okay. There you go.
Because when I'm trying to pronate, Sandra's cup and rise is able
Yeah.
to keep my pronator from being engaged. So like it's only halfway engaged. And from here, all I can really do is hold. And
Right.
if I try to drive, I'm taking my own pronator out
There
of
you
the
go.
gate.
And you're supinated and you're not coming back.
Exactly. But my endurance is not good enough to outhold Sandra's.
Right.
So I had to do something.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then a couple more from Stefano. He asked, have you made any changes to your general training as a result of that match outside of specific training for Hutchings? You mentioned you're working with Brandon Allen now. Had you started that before?
Yeah, I had started that.
Okay.
I think three or 4 weeks prior to Sandra's.
Yep.
And since Sandra's, I'm still working with Brandon. The only thing I've changed is at the end of my workouts, I've added on arm wrestling movements. So
Okay.
after, let's say, chest day yesterday, after chest day, I would have done cupping exercise. I would have done external rotation, like rotator cuff stuff,
Right.
Cupping, and then maybe a pronator exercise. And then the next training day, I might do riser, I might do some more cupping, and then I might do supination. So
Okay.
I'm not changing anything. I'm just adding on some stuff.
Okay. There we go. And then Stefano's final question is, have you planned something to say after he rubs your head at the end of the match, Todd Hutchings?
If Todd Hutchings beats me and rubs my head, there's nothing to say, right? Like,
yeah,
he earned it.
You're in the right to rub your head. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have Savage Arm Wrestling asks, Chance, I often see you low hand top roll, but I have never seen you post. Do you have a strong posting top roll? Do you ever resort to it, or do you try to avoid it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So if I'm ever going against another top roller, I'm not setting up dumped.
Okay.
I'm not going to be completely posted. I'm going to be more like here, but I'm never going to be here.
Okay.
So if I'm going against an inside puller, I'm always going to be dumped because, I mean, low hand top roll is good at beating hook puller. It's just arm wrestling math, if you will.
It's the geometry.
But if I'm low handing and you're posting, all the pressure is going to be into the back of my hand, and I'm going to lose my wrist every single time. So
interesting.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said you don't rise fully, so you leave what, like an inch of range of motion there, and why don't you go
just a little bit? Because I still want to make sure I'm as far back into my opponent's hand as possible.
Okay.
So like this part of the hand, if you're a hooker, you want to be like all the way inside so you can reach around and grab the back of your opponent's hand. If you're a top roller, you want to be all the way back.
Right.
So the benefit of a low hand top roll is you can get farther back into your opponent's hand.
Yep.
If I'm fully posted, I'm going against someone like, let's say, Wayne Withers, for example.
Sure.
Well, I wouldn't try to top roll him anyways, but he has a really big hand and he's a really tall top roller. So if I just try to match the post, I'm going to lose the post match.
Okay.
I don't have the same size capability.
Yep.
If I just am a little bit down, it gives my thumb, like, because I have kind of a fat thumb here.
Yeah.
Gives my thumb the ability to come back a little bit farther into my opponent's hand without sacrificing everything and putting the pressure into my wrist. So
when you're setting up, you're really thinking about that thumb line and where it is in your opponent's palm.
I don't necessarily think about it now, but I did a lot of thinking about it before.
Okay.
So it just kind of like clicks in my head. Like when I approach the table, I don't have to think about setting my elbow down and grabbing the peg.
Right.
And like, I don't have to think about the basics. And to me, this is one of the basics because I've thought about it so much.
All right. Pay close attention, newcomers, because that's some really good advice there. Next, we have 2 more questions. Ice Hatter, why didn't you go for your classic move in the East versus West? Is it because you got pinned by Dave Chafee and John while attempting it? So basically, I guess he's saying, did you change up your plan based on pulling Chafee and John?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I kind of just touched on why I would do one thing versus
Yeah.
the other. But against both John and Chafee, I was closer to this than I was to this.
Okay.
Because when I'm loading with Chafee didn't try to hook me.
Right.
And neither did John. When John tried to hook me, I did well. I think if Chafee tried to hook me, it would have gone the same way as if he tried to top roll me. I just think the gap is too big there. But I guess it goes back to, again, if I feel pressure loading into against my rise, I have to match it, because if I don't, it's going to be even worse for me. If I don't feel that pressure, or if they're not setting up with a post, then I can drop my knuckles and I can go back.
Okay.
So like Mike Aiello, for example, he's going to go here. This is his bread and butter. So why am I going to set up against anything else but that?
Right.
Or when I'm pulling Chris Chandler, if you watch me pull Chris Chandler, Michigan State's last year, again, Chris Chandler is a hook puller. So why am I going to set up with a post when this is going to work better?
Right.
So a lot of people think like I forget how to arm wrestle sometimes, and I just don't do what I want, like what I should do, my bread and butter. But it really depends on your opponent when you're a low hand top roller, unless you have a crazy amount of speed, which I do not.
Okay, so yeah, I guess long story short, you're not a silver bullet arm wrestler. You adapt based on who your opponent is and what you feel in the setup.
Yeah. I mean, of course, my one move is my best move, but you can't always use the same move against every puller.
Right. There you go. And final question, Troll Army member Coach Ray the Terrible asked, now that Coach Ray has set a new standard for the best dressed, do you feel pressured to up your game? Did you see him at the announcing there? Obviously you did.
Of course I saw him.
Yeah, how can you miss him?
Yeah, no, I don't feel any pressure.
No.
I think it's great that there's a spiffy looking arm wrestler. Like
spiffy, finally. That's the word.
Yeah, spiffy. That's the right word. I think it suits him. No, I don't feel any pressure. I kind of have my image, my brand, and I'm gonna stick by it. Maybe I'll have to bust out the outfit I wore against Ryan Bone, if anyone remembers what that outfit was.
Banana,
or maybe I'll have to up it to a romper or something for a big match.
Oh, bringing back the romper, man. I'm for it.
Who knows? I'll wear a man romper. I don't know.
Yep.
Something silly to get people to say mean things about me and talk about me and give me some more publicity, right? Like,
there you go, man.
Yeah, it's easy. But no, it's cool. I'm actually gonna see Coach Ray next month. I forgot to talk about this. In 2 weeks, I'm going to the Hardanger Open event. That's where the Hardanger Open.
Oh, in Norway? Is that one?
Yeah, that's where John is pulling Ingen. Coach Ray has a super match. Frode has a super match.
Yep.
Vios is pulling against Vlad. There's like a ton of matches. There's also a pay-per-view for that. That's on Facebook. It's just search Hardanger Open. You can find it. It's like $6 or something.
Sweet.
You get to watch one of John's matches and a bunch of other ones. So check that out too. But the promoter wanted me there, so I'm going to be there and I'm going to be competing. So
awesome.
I'm not going to be taking any time off from the gym or anything like that, because I can't afford to.
Right.
But I'll just treat it as arm wrestling practice. So
there you go.
Work out good.
Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, that does it, man. Thank you so much. That was super fun. I'm sure everyone on the forums appreciates it. And anything you want to say? I guess watch your event April 2nd, right? Michigan State's.
Yeah, absolutely. Michigan State's April 2nd over on Arm Sport Hub.
Yep.
armsporthub.com. I think it's like $5 for the pay-per-view. Check that out. If you're not subscribed to my channel, feel free to check that out as well.
It'll be in the description.
Yeah, thank you. And most of all, thank you, Ryan, for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was fun. I like answering questions that everyone has for me. So maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, we definitely will, man. Thank you so much.